1864. Paraguay was one of the most self-sufficient nations in South America. No foreign debt, a disciplined army, a population of 450,000 people. 6 years later, the army was gone. The cities were in ruins, and 90% of the population was dead. This is not a story about one man. This is not a story about one woman. This is the story of an entire nation that was pushed to the edge of extinction and somehow refused to disappear. When Francisco Solano Lopez declared war on Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay in 1864, most people thought it would be over in months. Paraguay was small. Its enemies were massive. What happened instead shocked the entire world. Paraguay fought like nothing anyone had seen before. Lopez had spent years modernizing his military, importing European weapons, training officers, building fortresses along the rivers that were the only way into the country. The first major test came in June 1865 at the Battle of Riachuelo, a naval battle on the Paraná River. Paraguay's small fleet faced the entire Brazilian navy. They lost, catastrophically. But Lopez didn't collapse. He retreated to land and built the most formidable fortress system in South American history. Humaitá, a fortress on a bend in the Paraguay River, surrounded by swamps, protected by massive chains stretched across the water to stop enemy ships. The Allied forces, 150,000 soldiers, threw themselves at Humaitá for 2 years. 2 years. The garrison inside, mostly teenagers and old men by this point, held. Every time the Allies thought they had broken through, the Paraguayans counterattacked. At the Battle of Curupaiti in September 1866, Paraguay inflicted one of the worst defeats in Brazilian military history. 9,000 Allied soldiers attacked a Paraguayan trench line. By the end of the day, 4,000 of them were dead. Paraguay lost 54. The world was watching. European newspapers called it a miracle. How was this tiny country still fighting? But the miracle had a price. Every battle cost Paraguay soldiers it could not replace. Brazil could lose 4,000 men and send 8,000 more. Paraguay could not. By 1867, Lopez was conscripting boys, 12 years old, 13. Some with fake beards painted on their faces so they would look older to the enemy. By 1868, he was conscripting women to dig trenches and carry supplies. And still, they fought. Humaitá finally fell in July 1868. The Allies marched on Asunción. In December 1868, the capital was evacuated. Civilians fled north into the jungle. The sick, the elderly, children, walking through jungle and swamp with whatever they could carry. Lopez retreated with them, his army now barely a few thousand men, his paranoia at its peak. This is when Lopez became truly dangerous to his own people. He began seeing traitors everywhere. His own brothers executed, his brothers-in-law executed, generals who had served him for years executed. In the jungle city of San Fernando, Lopez held military tribunals where hundreds of Paraguayans were tortured and killed on accusations of conspiracy. Some historians call this the darkest chapter of an already dark war. A man who had started the war to save Paraguay was now destroying what little remained of it. By early 1870, What remained of Paraguay was a column of starving civilians moving through the jungle, one step ahead of the Brazilian army. Children who had never known peace, women who had lost every man in their family, old men too weak to carry a rifle. And at the front, Lopez, still fighting, still refusing. Until March 1st, 1870, when the Brazilians finally caught up with him at Cerro Cora. You already know what happened there. The war was over. And what was left of Paraguay was almost impossible to describe. Before the war, 450,000 people. After, estimates vary, but historians believe somewhere between 150,000 and 220,000 survived. Of those survivors, the vast majority were women and children. The male population had been devastated so completely that in some regions, women outnumbered men 4 to 1. In some villages, there were no men at all. Paraguay had been one of the most isolated, self-sufficient countries in South America. Now it had no army, no economy, no functioning government, and a generation of children who had grown up knowing nothing but war. Brazil occupied the country for 6 years. Large portions of Paraguayan territory were absorbed by Argentina and Brazil, exactly as the Treaty of the Triple Alliance had planned. Foreign investors bought up Paraguayan land for almost nothing. The country that had refused foreign debt for decades was now completely dependent on foreign loans. It seemed impossible that Paraguay could survive as a nation. But it did. And the people who rebuilt it were almost entirely women. With no men to farm the land, women farmed it. With no men to run businesses, women ran them. With no men to raise children, women raised them and taught them, and kept the Guarani language alive, the language that to this day most Paraguayans speak as their mother tongue. There is no monument to these women, no famous names, no statues, no national holidays in their honor. Just a country that exists because they refused to let it disappear. 3 episodes ago, we started with one man. A man who loved his country so much, he was willing to destroy it. Then we met the woman who stood beside him through everything and buried him with her bare hands. And now we know the full story, not just of 2 people, but of an entire nation that was pushed to the edge of extinction and chose, somehow, to survive. Paraguay today has a population of 7 million people. Every single one of them is descended from the survivors of the most devastating war in the history of the Western Hemisphere. Think about that. The War of the Triple Alliance ended 150 years ago. Most of the world has never heard of it, but Paraguay remembers. It always has. This has been The Last War, a 3-part series on the War of the Triple Alliance. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, because that's exactly why this channel exists.